From stories ranging from a secret affair with a teammate's wife to a player allegedly plotting to injure her opponent, this episode of Khel Stories has all the top 5 controversies and scandals from the world of sports that you can't afford to miss. You absolutely need to watch this video till the very end to find out how some of these controversies have been converted to Oscar-nominated movies. So, without any further ado, let's get started. The myth of cricket being a gentleman's game has been busted a long time back, but a cricketer assaulting a spectator crosses all levels of decency. It was a high-voltage India-Pakistan match in Toronto. India was chasing a target of 117 runs in the second match of a 1997 Sharjah Cup. Inzamam already had a terrible day with the bat, scoring just 10 runs from 34 balls. To make things worse, a bulky Inzamam was dispatched near the boundary side from the slips. Probably not a very wise decision from Pakistan captain Ramiz Raja. Things got heated up when a Canada-based Indian spectator started shouting "Mota Aloo, Sada Aloo" towards him. The phrase roughly translates to "fat rotten potato" in English. What infuriated Inzamam more was that the particular spectator brought a megaphone with him and his shouts of "Mota Aloo, Sada Aloo" could be heard from a considerable distance. After continuous taunts, Inzamam couldn't take it any longer. He immediately instructed the 12th man to bring him a bat. Leaving the Indian players absolutely shocked, Inzamam took the bat, crossed the fence and approached the spectator in an aim to teach him a lesson. Luckily, the players and Canadian security intervened. Otherwise, God knows what would have happened to the spectator. Inzamam was subsequently handed a 2-match ban and had to appear in the courts for his misdemeanor. It was a story of infidelity, a story of betrayal of friendship that shocked the entire English football community. In 2010, the British media was flooded with reports of John Terry having an affair with former teammate Wayne Bridges' ex-partner Vanessa. Terry and Bridge were teammates at Chelsea from 2003 to 2009. Bridge clearly had a son with his partner Vanessa, who was a French model by profession. The couple had split after a 4-year-long relationship. It was hardly few months after the breakup that John Terry took undue advantage of the situation. It's said that in the name of providing support to Vanessa after the breakup, Terry visited Vanessa often and in that process seduced her into a relationship. The rumors of Vanessa getting pregnant around the same time added fuel to the fire. What was even worse is that Terry was already married back then and also had 2 kids. This episode of adultery had permanently cemented Terry's place as the villain in English football. Following the incident, Wayne Bridge retired from international football just at the age of 29 years, as it would have been impossible for him to share the dressing room with John Terry. Terry was subsequently stripped of his England captaincy before the 2010 World Cup. Incidentally, few days after the scandal hit the newspapers, John Terry and Wayne Bridge faced each other in the Premier League during the match between Manchester City and Chelsea. The footage of Wayne Bridge refusing to shake hands with John Terry remains one of the most infamous moments of the Premier League till date. Tennis world experienced the most shocking and darkest incident in its history on 30th April 1993. Incidents of fans assaulting players is not something totally new, but the fact that a fan can use a knife to hurt a player during an ongoing match is simply beyond the wildest imagination. Monica Seles became the youngest woman to win the French Open in 1990 when she defeated world number 1 Steffi Graf in the finals at the age of 16. While Graf was dominating the whole world, Seles dethroned her. The whole tennis world back then was divided based on her rivalry with Steffi Graf. To put things into perspective, in Steffi Graf's first 14 Grand Slam tournaments, she won only 1. In Seles' first 14 attempts, she won 8. Steffi Graf, being a German, had a huge fan base in Germany. A 38-year-old German man named Gunter Parsche was a die-hard fan of Steffi Graf and was totally obsessed with the biggest female sports star of his country. Parsche was an unemployed loner whose only guiding light in life was Steffi Graf. What this man did next is one of the most heinous crimes committed in a sports stadium. During a quarterfinal match in Hamburg, Germany, while Seles was going to sip water during the break, Parsche crossed the aisle and managed to get behind Monica Seles with a 9-inch long knife. And just before anyone could realize, he stabbed Seles with the knife, causing her to yell and fall on the ground. Seles missed 2 years of professional tennis due to this assault. Parsche had achieved his mission. Steffi Graf regained the #1 position within 5 weeks of the incident. The most notorious criminal in the tennis world was handed only a 2-year suspended sentence with a 0 jail time by the German court. And as regards to the fate of Monica Seles, she was never able to regain her form. It caused a high level of anxiety and depression to her and had to eventually undergo therapy. She ultimately returned to professional tennis in 1995 but won only one Grand Slam in the second phase of her career. Had it not been for that infamous incident, the world of tennis would have gone ahead to witness probably the most talented and decorated female player of all time, Monica Seles. This is a lesser known story outside US, but the fact that a documentary and movie with one Oscar win was made based on this incident should be reason enough for you to pay attention to this story. Back in 1994, a fierce rivalry broke out between two female ice skaters, Tanya Harding and Nancy Kerrigan. Harding was considered to be the more talented one, but was a misfit to the elegance of skating world. Also, her success was held back by her poor economical and working class background, homemade costumes, and unconventional choice of performance music. On the other hand, Kerrigan was considered to be the darling of middle and upper class society, racking up endorsements from various brands. Kerrigan's good girl image, along with the use of designer costumes and classical music, fitted perfectly with the 90s society. Now, coming to the main part of the story. It was the biggest news leading to the 1994 Winter Olympics. Previously, Nancy Kerrigan and Tanya Harding had participated in the 1992 Winter Olympics, where Kerrigan won the bronze medal while Harding finished 4th. In the weeks leading up to 1994 Winter Olympics, Kerrigan was coming off the ice after practice in Detroit when she was hit in the right knee by a man with a police baton. It was an attempt to break her leg. Fortunately for Kerrigan, the injury left her with just bruises and no broken bones. But few days later, this story turned into a major scandal when it was revealed that the man who assaulted Nancy was hired by Harding's ex-husband. Everybody assumed that it was Harding's lust for fame and success that made her ex-husband plan the attack on Kerrigan so that she could not compete with Harding in the upcoming 1994 Winter Olympics. But till date, Harding maintains that she had no idea of the incident. She, however, pleaded guilty to hindering of prosecution, which means that she found out details of the attack after the incident but did not report it to police. But till date, she maintains the fact that she had no prior knowledge of the incident and did not order anyone to carry out the attack. Later that year in the Winter Olympics, Kerrigan won the silver medal while Harding finished 8th due to issues with her skate laces. Nobody knows the full truth behind that incident. Did Harding had a role in that attack? Why did Harding's ex-abusive husband want to do her a favor? Did he wanted to do a twisted favor in order to win Harding back, or was it some sort of revenge against Harding for filing a divorce? Guess we will never find out what went behind all the planning and plotting stages of the attack. The history of Formula One is littered with scandals that have rocked the sport to its very core. But among all the scandals, the Crashgate incident of Singapore 2008 Grand Prix remains the most infamous one, an incident where a driver went to the extent of risking his life in order not to be sacked. Now, let's face it, Formula One is a sport which is alien to most of us, but so I will try and explain this controversy in as much simple terms as possible so that even a layman can understand. Formula One team Renault was already struggling in 2008 season with driver Fernando Alonso failing to secure a single podium finish in the previous 14 races. A car failure in the second qualifying round saw Alonso starting the race in 15th position. Renault decided to keep Alonso's car light by loading only a small portion of fuel. Lesser fuel meant the car was lighter, which in turn ensured that the car moved faster. Since the car was already low on fuel, Alonso had to take a pit stop at the 12th lap. Now, just in case you don't know, a pit stop refers to the halt of a car at a pit area or garage to reload fuel and change the tires. 2 laps later, Alonso's teammate Renault driver Nelson Piquet Jr. crashed against the walls at the 17th turn of 14th lap. It is worth noting that the turn 17 was the trickiest part of the circuit, where it was extremely difficult to recover or remove a car quickly. When a car crashes, you need to clear the debris and the damaged car to make the lane safe for other drivers. This can be done either by a crane or safety car. Cranes carry out operation much faster as they lift the entire damaged car. The important thing to note here is that Nelson Piquet Jr.'s car crashed at such a position in the circuit that safety cars had to be rushed as there were no cranes nearby. Now, according to F1 rules back in 2008, pit lanes were closed until all cars had been piled up behind the safety car. This basically meant that the advantage of the late cars would be eliminated before they were able to pit. Alonso, having pitted just before the crash, gained a significant advantage. Most of the leading cars ended up behind Alonso. A narrow circuit in Singapore Grand Prix meant that overtaking a car was a difficult task. Those ahead of Alonso were lighter on fuel and needed to make a pit stop. After gaining the lead in the final third of the race, Alonso went on to win the race. Sounds like luck favored Alonso, right? Except that it wasn't luck or coincidence. It was a case of meticulous planning by the directors of Renault to give Alonso the undue advantage. Renault driver Nelson Piquet Jr. was just following orders from his superiors because he wanted to continue driving for Renault. All the while, there were suspicions behind the scenes at Formula One, but no one spoke about it openly. After being sacked by the team for the string of poor performances by Renault in 2009, Piquet went public, revealing the full extent of the incident and how he was told to crash at a certain time and place. Renault was subsequently handed a 2-year ban and severe action was taken against the directors of Renault. No action was taken against Fernando Alonso, though, who till date maintains the fact that he had no idea of the incident. So that's all for today, guys. Don't forget to subscribe our channel Khel Stories for more such stories, and please do hit the bell icon for weekly notifications. As promised, Khel Stories will be back again next week with a new story. Till then, stay safe, stay healthy and keep loving sports. Bye bye.